Welcome back to the Game of Money podcast. I'm Oren Klaff, and here we go. I am broadcasting to you today from Venice, Italy. And Venice is, for those of you who are following along, I have a research and development innovation center in Venice, which we are developing a technology we're bringing to the United States. This is almost $26 million of equipment that we're bringing in with a follow-on of $100 million of equipment, and we're building a target billion-dollar company. But why Venice? So Venice is this is really interesting. Hey, how do you build a billion-dollar American company starting in Venice, Italy? That more seems like somewhere that you would just go on vacation. Let's talk about Venice just for 2 seconds. I know, you're probably sitting in Kansas City, you're sitting in Anchorage, Alaska, you're sitting in Southern California and going, why do I care about Venice? This podcast is called The Game of Money. It's starting to sound like the game of vacation. Au contraire, mon frère, we're going to talk about why. Italian cities like Venice are considered living museums because they preserve the historical architecture, culture, traditions, and they offer visitors like us an immersive experience in history. Why do we care? These cities like Venice are living museums in which modern-day Italians can learn and preserve and understand their history and bring that forward into the products we use today. If you're in my life, what are the products we use? You have to install a kitchen, you have to have bathrooms, you have, in Southern California, you have big Italian influence on housing. You may drive a Ferrari, you may drive a Lamborghini, you may drive a Fiat. Whatever you're doing, there is some, and you may shop at Louis Vuitton, you may watch shows like Succession, which have Louis Vuitton and Ferraris in it that signal that these are high social status, high net worth people. In some way, you interact with Italian luxury goods as part of your everyday life, even if you're in Kansas City. And so the reason that luxury goods come from Italy is they have this cultural integrity, this cultural authenticity that ties back to the Renaissance. Why is the Renaissance period? So if you go to Venice, the Renaissance is on full display. If you go to downtown Kansas City, if you go to downtown Kissimmee, Florida, if you go to downtown Newark, Delaware, the Renaissance period in which our culture was formed is not on full display, right? In downtown Newark, Delaware, there's an arcade, there's a Space 2 pizza shop, there's a Starbucks, there's one-way traffic on Main Street, there's a 5 and 10 store, there's a Target down the road, and there's a yogurt shop. The Renaissance is not on full display. So let's talk about the Italian Renaissance is part of the history, though, that we value in our culture. When we build our home, we don't go buy things on downtown Main Street, Newark, Delaware. We buy things that give a sense of, we want to give a sense of aesthetic and luxuriousness in our home, and those come from Italy. Why? The Italian Renaissance marked a period of immense creativity and intellectual development in human civilization, producing some of the world's most revered art, architecture, and literature. Figures like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael became icons of artistic mastery, where philosophers like Machiavelli and humanists like Petrarch shaped Western thought. So when you go to modern-day Venice, you can see where Western thought was shaped. You don't have to go into a museum, you don't have to go into a library, you don't have to be an academic, you don't have to be there for 5 years researching it. You just walk down the damn street and you can see Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, and the thinkers, the artists that shaped Western thought. The accomplishments of this period are seen as foundational to Western culture and values as we know it. So the things you learn in school, the things you revere in culture, whether it's a Ferrari, a Louis Vuitton, a Prada, you have to own that stuff, but at least it's there to signal a high aesthetic. And we value these sense of aesthetic in our culture. We've been taught these ways of thought from the Renaissance period. We've been taught about the art and the scientific way of reasoning from Leonardo da Vinci, and in American schools we value this part of history and it shapes our ideal. So why I say, hey, it shaped American thought, the way you were taught in schools, but why? The Renaissance period emphasizes individualism, humanism, and innovation, and that resonates with American ideals of self-determination. You are the way you are, very likely, as an American, because of the way you are taught the ideals of logic and free thinking that came from the Renaissance, right? So for example, there's not people like you in Sweden, and there's not people like you in Moscow. You are, if you're listening to this in America, you're uniquely American, and that is because of our culture, our values, and the way our education system thinks about logic, art, and emotion. And that's where you got your Americanness from, is because we value this part of history, the Renaissance. And the other things that I think resonate with the way that the Renaissance period, by the way, we're getting around to the game of money here in a second, but there is a large Italian-American population in American cities, New York, Chicago, and that's really contributed to the appreciation of Italian culture and history in the U.S. Italian cultural heritage. I think 1 or 2 podcasts ago, I literally did the show on The Godfather, right? The influence of these shows have really steeped into the culture and the way we think from media, and American educational institutions and the media, then you can see, emphasize the Renaissance as a transformative period in world history, and we revere it. And it's often taught as the crucial chapter in the development of Western civilization, reinforcing the value in our own American culture. These factors combine to give Italian Renaissance an elevated status in the US, shaping how you as an American appreciate art, appreciate history, appreciate cultural heritage, and actually the way you think. And that's super important, because what we do in America is different from the way they think in Italy, and I want to focus on that. So in the United States, remember, this is a game of money. The way our culture emphasizes economics, our emphasis is on mass production of products. The US has historically prioritized mass production and efficiency in manufacturing. Where did that start? We all know the story. Henry Ford started this assembly line to make cars more efficiently, and he said to everyone, you can have it in any color you want as long as it's black. Everybody knows that story, right? So he revolutionized manufacturing, but he did it by emphasizing speed and uniformity over craftsmanship. And I just landed the plane. How is Italy different from America? How is this area we're in, Venice, different from the area we're in Los Angeles or California? Is the emphasis over speed and uniformity over craftsmanship. This focus that we have in America on scaling production quickly and affordably made American products more accessible but less artisanal. Wonder Bread, Budweiser, McDonald's, and jarred pickles and canned tuna. That is what made, in many ways, America. That came about in the 1940s and the 1950s. And what we aspire to do is to be able to produce things in one place and ship them everywhere. You can think we can all agree Wonder Bread was not necessarily artisanal, but you could get it anywhere. And so if you moved from New York to Los Angeles or to Chicago, the sense was you could go in a supermarket and you can get the things you're familiar with. Budweiser, tuna of the sea, whatever, tuna, mayonnaise, Hellman's mayonnaise, pickles, and then you could have the same products in broad distribution. So in the US, that led to us having really a consumer-oriented economy. In the US, there's been a strong focus on catering to, like I said, a broad consumer market rather than on luxury artisanal goods. 70% of luxury comes from Italy, not from the United States. The consumer-oriented mindset pushed for standardization, making products affordable, widely available. Again, Budweiser, but not made with the same attention to detail or craftsmanship. This is why we have had an explosion in the last 10 years of craft beer. There's something like 180 breweries in San Diego. What has been missing is this artisanal sense, and now that we have the logistics, now that we have the internet, now that we have broad media, finally we're bringing back the ability to make an artisanal product in the United States. But for 100 years, it's really been about standardization, making products affordable, quickly, and widely available. That is not how they think in Italy or south of France, in this area of Europe. If you think about the United States, post-war industrial dominance. After World War II, the U.S. became a dominant global economic power, focusing heavily on large-scale industries, aerospace, automotive, manufacturing. Italy focused on smaller, highly specialized industry. Ducati typewriter company, then became a bicycle company, then they put motors on the bicycles, and then they became a specialty motorcycle company. We have no parallel like that in the United States, that somebody focused so much on the aesthetic beauty and a way of doing things. Ducati never would have become a motorcycle company of beautiful racing motorcycles in the United States. We would have turned it into something totally different. Those kinds of companies can only happen here in Italy. Why? Because in the US, I think you can agree, we focus on big business and corporatization. If you have a company, how can you get it big? How can you scale it? How can you take it public? How can you have it release consistent earnings reports, right? US industries are often driven by large corporations that prioritize profits, scalability, and market share. What is the US made out of? If you have to dismantle the US and look inside of it, cut it in half, count the rings, see what's inside the middle of the United States, it's profits, scalability, and market share. If you go take a deal to a venture capital firm, what's the first thing they say to you? What's your market size? Oh, market's not big enough. So American companies tend to focus on cost-effective production, automation, and economies of scale. If you walk into a venture firm, a private equity firm, or an investor, and you go, hey, I have a way of making something very niche, very expensive, very artisanal, they're like, hey, cool, but it's not an investable deal. Because this is the way of thinking. Cost-effective production, automation, and economies of scale. Why do we think like that in the US? I think I hit a lot of the reasons. The post-World War II, we had this manufacturing capability, and then we wanted to continue using it, and it was like make a lot of stuff very quickly, affordably. It didn't really have an aesthetic, but it was highly usable, and it was robust because the American worker, not that they're not capable of artisan work, they used their capability for artisanal work into making high quality production. Snap-on tools, right? Great American company. For many years, Harley Davidson. I don't want to hang my hat on that one, but an interesting, certainly iconic American company. So we make great things here with the strength and the focus that we have, but it's about industrialization, scale, and quality. It's not about artisanal effects. So we have, I think I'll land the plane here. In the United States, we have a pioneering spirit. What are we doing? We're going to Mars. We're going to put a colony on Mars. We started on the East Coast and we pioneered as hard as it was. We've got wagon wheels and we drove across the West and we conquered the West, which is inhospitable. We ran out of gas and we figured out fracking. Like all this comes to the United States. Russia and the United States, I'd say in the late 30s, early 40s, there were two dominant world technologies that were possible to rule the world. One was metallurgy, right? It seems like the better you could make metal, the more you could make guns, the more you could make planes, it could go faster, the more you could make engines, it could withstand more heat. It was really a signal that metallurgy potentially could rule the world. And the second technology was the miniaturization of the semiconductor. Right? The United States chose the semiconductor and Russia chose metallurgy. Even today, if we need a rocket engine, where do you think we get it? We don't make it ourselves, we get it from Russia. Today, 100 years on, their metallurgy is better than ours. We still have not caught up, but we chose the right technology, which was this semiconductor. And that is in many ways why we're a superpower, because we chose semiconductor, they chose metallurgy. And they still today excel in it because their whole society and culture formed around it. We have a pioneering spirit, and now we use that semiconductor to then move into the internet, and we continue to do pioneering. We do not think in the United States about artistic tradition. The United States is a damn Etch-a-Sketch, right? Every 5 years, the entire United States culture, society, turns itself over, shakes it, turns it back over, and starts drawing a new society. New traditions. This is why, as I've said many times, you cannot make The Hangover 2 and Hangover 3 again. We turned the Etch-a-Sketch over. We don't think that stuff is funny anymore. Something about Mary, we don't think that's funny, right? So Disney took over Star Wars. Star Wars was this thing that many of us felt was like iconic to our youth, and now damn Disney took it over and they're making woke Star Wars. The Etch-a-Sketch on Star Wars, a thing that's fundamental to the storytelling of the way we grew up, got Etch-a-Sketch. When it erases, so we erase our culture. And you go to Venice, where I started this, culture has not been erased. It has been preserved. Artistic tradition versus the pioneering spirit. That is the core difference between America and Italy. We have a can-do attitude in the United States, focusing on overcoming challenges and pushing technological boundaries. That's what makes us great. But we do not have Ferrari. There is no great American sports car that you admire, that you covet, that when you drive it around is a signal of where you are in the pecking order, that it brings just joy of ownership. You're gonna look at it. Why? Because we're pioneering, right? We made Tesla. Tesla's fun, it's exciting, you're saving the environment, cool car. It is not a Ferrari. There's no Tesla that will ever be a Ferrari because Ferrari has all the things that I talked about, artistic tradition. We have a pioneering mindset, prioritizes functionality and speed over intricate artistry, craftsmanship, and emotional products. So that's a good point. We focus on technology, and Italy, they focus on craftsmanship. The US is highly specialized in areas of technology, software engineering, where functionality and innovation are key. Silicon Valley, right? That's where you get advanced technology companies. Efficiency, scale, innovation, nothing to do with aesthetic nuance or fine craftsmanship. There is no better, compare contrast of what Italy is versus what the United States is than Silicon Valley. What can scale? What makes things hyper efficient, right? What is a level of innovation, right? It does not have to have any aesthetic. Think about Yahoo, the first Yahoo. Think about Microsoft Word, right? Those are high efficiency products that are miserable to use, ugly to look at, but highly useful. One thing I didn't mention here was in the United States, what do we do? What do we have more of, better of, and what makes us a superpower more than any other industry? Correct. The military and industrial complex. The US economy has been shaped by the military industrial complex in the US. We focus on defense, we focus on technology, we focus on mass production of things that shoot, fly, defend, track, radar, buzz, and go faster, deeper, harder than anything else in the world. This has shaped an industrial environment where we prioritize durability and efficiency over artistry. That is just literally this expression, the way of the world. It is the way of the world. So we have democratized goods. American consumers have demanded affordability and accessibility, right? If we brought Italy and we had the Italian way run the US economy, it would be a witch's brew of chaos, right? Because what would go out the door? Affordability and accessibility. We would not have large retail chains. We would not have fast fashion. You would not be buying cool t-shirts for $12 from Pakistan, right? Well, what do you buy in Italy? When you go to Italy, you buy Gucci, you buy Prada, you buy Louis Vuitton. You don't buy $12 t-shirts made in India. The US has often emphasized making products available for the widest possible audience, which reduces an emphasis on craftsmanship. Damn it, what is the name of this pickle company? Clausen, Vlasic, and Mount Olive, right? What we are great at is making pickles. You can be in Lake Ariel, Pennsylvania, which is really in the middle of nowhere, very beautiful. You go in a little five and dime at the corner, it closes at 5 o'clock. Go in, get a jar of pickles. It's gonna be Vlasic pickles for sure. So the consumerization of products is what America does. And unfortunately, that means we have a disposable culture. The rise of fast consumerism in the US, where products are quickly produced, consumed, and discarded, is really in stark contrast to Italy's ethos of creating long-lasting, high-quality goods. You know what? I'm gonna go, since I'm here in Italy, as I mentioned, I'm gonna go find some Italian pickles and do a compare and contrast of Italian pickles to Vlasic, mass-produced, and Budweiser beer. Italian craftsmanship often reflects a buy less, buy better philosophy. Clearly, we do not have in the United States. American consumer culture is often more focused on convenience and trends. The last thing I want to say in the US that's really interesting is the way we educate ourselves. It's STEM, right? What is STEM? Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. That's what we learn here, right? We don't learn design, we don't learn humanism, we don't learn skilled artisanal labor. Actually, one of our team here went to the Monte Grappa pen company and he was talking to people. It takes 9 years to get the skills to work at a pen company in order to be hired by them, right? As I said before, you could probably go get hired at BIC USA, the pen company. I could probably go get hired there this afternoon with absolutely no skills in the pen industry. So Italy has a strong tradition of design and artisanal education, institutions that train generations in what? not STEM, but fashion, architecture, and fine craftsmanship. So lastly, that is my conclusion. The US excels in areas like technology, mass production, and innovation, but has not developed the same cultural or economic emphasis on artistry and craftsmanship that Italy has. Italy's long history, cultural focus, and beauty of craftsmanship and artisanal traditions have helped it dominate fashion, coffee, automotive, where emotional resonance and athletic excellence are key. The US focus on scalability, efficiency, affordability, make it fast, make it good, make it cheap, sell it to everybody, which has shaped industries differently. That's why I'm here in Italy, building an innovation center, tapping into what they're great at, and then I'm bringing it back to the United States where I'm financing it and selling it because artisanal design, aesthetic excellence are valuable in the United States. We're just not great at doing it there. If you'd like to be involved in this project, let me know. It's very easy to get in touch. I say that, but that's probably not true. You can head over to orenclaff.com, put your name in, tell me what you're interested in, what you're working on, what you'd like to get in touch on, and of course, we'll try and get back to you. Have a wonderful day, and this has actually been the game of money.